Ezra, the 6th chapter. We'll be reading verses 1 through 5 and 13 through 16. Again, that's 1 through 5 and 13 through 16. In Ezra chapter 6, and you may stand in honor of the word this morning. In Ezra chapter 6, beginning at verse 1, we read, "Then Darius, the king, made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls, where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Achmethea, in the palace that is in the province of the Medes, a roll, and therein was a record thus written. In the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus king made a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem, saying, Let the house be builded, the place where they offered sacrifices, and let the foundation thereof be strongly laid. The height thereof 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 80 cubits. With 3 rows of great stones, and a row of new timber. Let the expenses be given out of the king's house. And also, let the golden and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple, which is at Jerusalem, and brought into Babylon, be restored, and brought again unto the temple, which is at Jerusalem, every one to his place, and place them in the house of God." And then 13 through 16, we read, "Then Tatnai, governor on this side of the river, Shethar-Boznai, and their companions, according to that which Darius the king had sent, so did they speedily. And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. And they builded and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, kings of Persia. And this house was finished on the 3rd day, the month Adar, in which was the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. And the children of Israel, the priests and the Levites and the rest of the children of the captivity kept the dedication of this house of God with joy." Our opening text in Ezra, it takes us to the Jewish exiles who, under the leadership of Zerubbabel, successfully completed the rebuilding of the temple at Jerusalem. Now, although our passage primarily takes us to the declaration and completion of their task, it's not as though this work wasn't without its sacrifices, its pitfalls, and most certainly its setbacks. One group, Ezra records, as even sending emissaries to one of the former kings of Persia, saying, "Let it be known unto thee, O king, that if this city," that be the city of Jerusalem, "be builded and the walls set up again, they will not pay toll, nor tribute, or any custom. And thou shalt endamage the revenue of the kings. Let search be made in the book of the records of thy fathers. So shalt thou know that this city is a rebellious city, and a hurtful unto kings and provinces, for which cause this city was initially destroyed." Yes, there were quite a number of adverse circumstances that came against Israel in this time. One thing that I found interesting about this letter is the way they labeled the children of Israel. A rebellious people. And they were a rebellious people, were they not? History shows not only were they a thorn in the side of all the nations surrounding them, quite often they were a thorn in the side of God himself. He's like, "Behold, I have seen this people. They are a stiff-necked and rebellious people. They don't want to follow me. They don't want to listen to me. They want to always go their own way." It's funny. We often think that we can carry the label of Christian, right? And we can do our own thing. God all the while knowing, you are as rebellious as that red-headed kid. My mama just told me to watch my mouth. You are just rebellious. You are just stubborn. And we think that, hey man, if I walk out the door with my Christian mantle around me, though God knows between he and I what's going on, the world doesn't know. this letter proves that to be inaccurate. God knew Israel was rebellious. God knew Israel was stubborn. And who else knew? Everyone around them knew. Everyone could see that they weren't following God the way that they needed to, the way they should do. It's funny how people in the world will be the first ones to cite when we're acting as hypocrites. And they'll say, you know what? If you're going to believe, at least do what you believe. Or live like the rest of us and say, I don't believe in that. But don't profess belief and not actually do it. You know? Now some of you are like, oh, you can't say that. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, some of us need to feel uncomfortable, you know? My wife often asks me, why do you turn the temperature in the sanctuary down to 71 degrees? Well, there are two reasons. First, I'm hot-blooded. I like it colder. I do. I lived in Florida for a long time. I never want to go back. I'll visit it. It's wonderful. But I would much rather be cold than hot. And two, it actually makes me smile when I see some people going, huh. Because in my head, I think, man, something I just said made them feel uncomfortable. Deep down, I know they're just cold. I know it. But still, if you shiver, if you're a little bit uncomfortable, you know what happens? Your senses are heightened. You are more aware of what is going on. You are. If you're all comfortable and relaxed, looking like one of those, as my father would say, dead pigs in the sunshine. And why he always smiled like that? If you're a dead pig in the sunshine, why do you smile? That's not the point. I imagine when you're sitting there all comfortably in the sun, in the warmth of it, you have no cares in the world, your senses are so slow, you'd miss the broadside of a barn with your hat in 3 thrown tries. That's because you're comfortable. That's when the enemy can slide right in. Did not Jesus say this to Peter? Watch, pray. And then Peter turned around and add to it, be sober, be vigilant, be alert. Because the devil is always looking for those who are comfortable. He's looking for those who are comfortably here. Oh man, this world, it ain't my home, but it sure is nice. It's like one of those hotels on vacation, right? I'm still a sojourner, Lord, but I'm on vacation. We're supposed to be traveling through here. This is like the pit stop. We're going to make all kinds of memories, right? Route 66, come and get your kicks. All of the little sideshows, all of the largest ball of yarn in the world, all the little tourist traps, right? We're going to make all kinds of memories on this journey full of tourist traps. But this is not our last stop. This is not the last place that we're supposed to be. It's not. This is just one of those stops along the way in our journey. And the whole time, we're talking about how great it's going to be when we can see worlds beyond worlds. Right? People often say, well, why in the world would you want to live a life thinking that you are looking for something beyond what you have right now? There's nothing wrong with that. Because if all you have and all you think about is this right here, what did Paul call you? Most miserable. Right? We live in a society that always wants to acquire more, right? And they can't wrap their head around the fact that if you become a child of God, all you're given is more options, more opportunities, and more worlds you're going to be able to look at and explore. If nothing else, at least this world and the new one that will come down, right? That's twice as many as those unbelievers will get. Yes. I'd rather have about twice as many, right? But nevertheless, these emissaries wrote a letter saying, this is a group of rebellious people. And if you don't stop this, you're going to find it's going to hurt your revenue. But Darius, he looked in the records and found where Cyrus, a king before him, had said, I want this temple to be built. I want the foundations to be laid. I want it so bad that I am willing to give of my treasury to see it happen. Who is that? That's a guy whose heart has been touched. You know? That's a guy who realizes who God is. You know? How did he realize this? Well, of course, he had to read it. He had to know it. He had to speak to people who honestly believed in it. Had to. And he had to have a relationship where he understood who God was. So Darius, seeing this information, he said, you know what? I'm going to follow in this decree. It was made, and the Persians' decrees are not to be undone by anyone. So I'm going to make sure it happens. I'm going to make sure they get all the gold. I'm going to make sure they get all the silver. I'm going to make sure they get everything that they need. I'm even going to make sure that the vessels that were taken from them, those historic relics, those sacred artifacts, are brought back to them. So they had everything that they needed, including all of the things that they held on so dearly to from the past to make this a reality. And so they celebrated. Once the work was done, they celebrated. But there were two very important things that brought them up to this point. Those are two things that I want to focus on. Ezra mentions them. The first was that they prospered according to the prophecy of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah. What does this let us know? That they too were readers of the word. Just as Darius read the signed decree of Cyrus, right? Something in writing that said, this is what is to come to pass. The Jews also had the same decrees written in there saying, this will come to pass. Haggai said it. Well, Cyrus said it. We know that it's going to come to pass. So we need to do nothing more than just put one foot in front of the other and it will be built. You know why? God said it, so it has to happen. Why is this important? Well, if you don't know that by now, y'all are really lost. Because we too have the word of God given to us. A word that gives us what is to happen. Jesus speaking to the disciples said, lo, I have told you all of these things, so that when they happen, you will know that I have said them, and you will believe in what? Me. I said it way before it came to pass, so that when it comes to pass, you'll know who told you. They had this word. They had this contract in front of them. So they had the confidence to believe it as they went forward. No, it wasn't going to be perfect. We already talked about how it wasn't going to be perfect. It wasn't just going to be easy. But nevertheless, victory was guaranteed. That's very, very important because we have that same shot at absolute guaranteed victory. Not an easy fight, but guaranteed victory. But that's just the first reason they were successful. Do you know what the second one is? No? I'm glad you asked me. I'm glad you asked, because I'll let you know exactly what it was. The second reason was that these people sought to receive guidance from God, not just in the scrolls, not just in books that some people in this day and age might find to be just relics of a bygone era. They sought God to guide them today. Today. Ezra 3:1-6 says, and when the 7th month was come, and the children of Israel were in the cities, the people gathered themselves together as one man to Jerusalem, in one house, in one accord, not the car. They gathered themselves together, just like they did on the day of Pentecost. Then stood up Jeshua of Jozadak and his brethren, the priests of Zerubbabel and Shealtiel and his brethren. They built an altar to the God of Israel to offer burnt offerings thereon, as it is written in the law of Moses, the man of God. From the first day of the 7th month began they to offer burnt offerings unto the Lord, but the foundation of the temple of the Lord was not yet laid. Did y'all hear that? What does this passage let us know? That before they laid the first brick, before they planned the first contractor to come in, they did what? They sought God for guidance and blessings in their current position. Yes, they already knew that victory was coming their way, but before they wanted to step forward, they wanted to know, God, is this the path you have for me? Is this the way that we're going to do this? God, I want your blessing in what we're going to do going forward, and I want to be able to receive that blessing, so I'm going to dedicate myself to receiving from you before I dedicate myself to doing your work. Why is this important? Y'all should know by now, because we have that same calling. We have that same calling placed upon us. No, we're not just supposed to look into the Bible for all of the important passages and all of the mantras that we use to get ourselves through our daily life. Yes, the Bible is a wonderful, wonderful resource. Yes, the Bible is the Word of the living God. But therein lay the point, the living God. If all you're ever doing is looking into the Word of God for all of your answers and not actually spending time praying and asking Him for guidance today, how can you be equipped to handle the world of today? Well, now you're saying that the Bible's not relevant. No, I'm not. I'm saying that unless you take His Word and His Spirit, the Word which is truth, and His Spirit, which is today, and put them together, you won't be worshiping God in the right way to begin with. Why? Because Jesus said God is a spirit, and they that worship Him must worship Him in spirit and in truth. So, if His Word is truth, we know His Word to be truth. We know that that's the same contract that they had from Haggai and Zechariah. It's the same contract that we have from John, who had it in Revelation, and gave us what the end result would be. There's the truth. What's the Spirit? Well, I was actually talking about this with the youth Wednesday night. It's interestingly enough. And although you might not understand what the Spirit of God is, I know you'll understand this. If someone is walking around in the spirit of Christmas, what do they look like? This wasn't a rhetorical question. Y'all can say some answers, Like they wear those ridiculously ugly sweaters, right? Well, okay. Hats, I guess. They'll wear the reindeer antlers. They've got 96.9s rocking whatever it is Christmas. I can't stand it, honestly. The 24 hours of Christmas. I can't stand the 24 hours of a Christmas story that you watch all the time during Thanksgiving. I'll shoot my eyes out if I have to watch it one more time. Okay? But some people have Christmas in July. They have Christmas in March. They have Christmas in their hearts. That is the point. That's the point. They walk in there humming. Grandma got run over by a reindeer, walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. Oh my gosh, will you shut up? You're so merry, it's making me nauseated. Why are you so cheerful? Man, I got the spirit of Christmas in my heart. I'll give you a gift, I'll give you a gift, I'll give you a gift. Man, I just got all kinds of love in my heart. Why? Because the spirit of Christmas is in my heart. Now, take all of those bells and whistles, all of those lights that you'd hang on the tree and from your roof, which is a terrible idea, by the way. My wife makes me do it, but it is a terrible idea. I would not recommend hanging lights from a roof. Sorry, tangent. Back. Take all of that Christmas stuff and apply it to the spirit of Christian, the spirit of God. Someone who's walking in the spirit of God has a joy, has the ability to give. They want to show you that, man, it's in me and I'm going to give it to you. They want you to see it. And sometimes it's so irritating. How can you be so full of the Spirit? It's Monday. It ain't Sunday. Go back to church. I'll tell you how I can, because my God gave me Spirit not just for Sunday. He gave me Spirit for every day. Monday, Tuesday, let it shine. Wednesday, Thursday, let it shine. Friday, Saturday, let it shine. And all day Sunday, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. They have this Spirit inside of them that lets everyone know, just like it let the world know if you're rebellious, if you're a hypocrite, if in all honesty you need to open the lids of the Bible that's probably dusty on your nightstand. The world knows that. The world also knows if you've got His Spirit within you, if you are walking actively daily, seeking the living God for His guidance, that is Spirit and truth combined. These two elements are what Israel had. Yes, they had the Word of God, but they were actively seeking His blessing in their lives. They were actively seeking it. And so they were blessed. They were blessed in their work. The temple was laid. Everything was a joyous celebration. And then something happened. Flash forward from that moment to the time that Ezra arrives. And he hears that these same people are engaged in all kinds of relationships, in marriages and in families, with a surrounding area. The Bible says that when Ezra heard these words, he pulled at his beard, and his hair probably sounded like Yosemite Sam, and started crying out to God, "What in the world are you people doing?" Now, some of you are probably sitting there thinking, man, Ezra sounds like one of those xenophobic guys that just hates anybody who wasn't a Jew. No. Ezra wasn't concerned nearly as much over what Israel was doing as he was over what their actions revealed that they were no longer doing. You see, it had been decreed a long time ago that God said, I want you to keep yourselves separate from the surrounding nations. No, not because you're better than them. No, not because of this or that or thus. It's because I know you, I know your nature, and you'll end up including all of their ways, all of their worship, all of their gods into your life. You're not strong enough to live outside of it. What you're going to end up doing is saying, hey, come on in, bring everything with you. God knew this would happen. So He said, don't do it. If you do not have the strength to keep yourself away from it, the best thing to do is just leave it alone. I see some people walking in their Christian life. That's why I love grace. Absolutely love it. Because it is unique in the respect that the grace God gives you, Roger, is perfect for you. It is not the grace He has given me. It's not the grace He's bestowed upon me and to help me through the things that I am weak to. The grace that He's given you helps you in your weaknesses. Helps you in your weaknesses. It is not like mine any more than our fingerprints are the same. God knows the things that I am weak to. He knows the things you're weak to. So to have some cookie cutter version of grace that says, here, it was good for them. Take this 3 times and call me in the morning. You'll be fine. No! And what part of that would be a personal relationship? If He didn't actually look into you and say, I know that you're not like him. Far too often, hey, give them this, it works for everybody. What is the kill-all when you go down to the urgent care centers? Amoxicillin, right? Oh, it's got to be strep throat. Just give them amoxicillin, you'll be fine. just do it, and you'll be fine. Don't worry, you'll be fine. I've walked in there and had people say, well, the swab came back negative for strep, but I looked in your mouth and I know you got strep, so we're just going to give you a prescription anyway. What? I've actually been there, okay? And no, this is not me preaching against medicine, okay? The point is, God is personal care. If you want personal care, you'll never find a better form of it than of God. You won't find it in Medicare. You won't find it at the VA. You won't find it down at White House Clinic or Lexington Clinic. You won't find it at St. Joe or Baptist, anywhere else, all right? Have I spoken enough about the hospitals? I'm not leaving one out intentionally. The point that I'm making is God's care is unique to you. God's grace is sufficient for you. That's why Paul said, I will pray that God's grace overshadow me. He said, my grace is sufficient for thee. For behold, my strength is made perfect in weakness, because you become dependent upon Him. in marrying around all over the place with the surrounding people, some of which, by the way, had called them a rebellious people to begin with. They were inviting all of these extra things into the most sacred relationship they would ever have. Mark it down. The marriage relationship, as you guys have been hearing on Wednesday night. Yes, this is one of those moments where I was like, man, it is awesome to be working with the youth, but man, it would be awesome to be sitting in there and listening to that too. I've heard nothing but great things, and I have read a lot of the stuff as well, and it truly is great for relationships. It is. But marriage is that one relationship on the earth that we can have as one person. As one. When you look at it, John 17 comes to life. It says, I pray, Lord, that they be one as we are one. The only other relationship you're going to have is with that wife, that husband. It ain't with that recliner. And it ain't with your she shed neither. It's not. It's with that troll of a husband, that ogre that you have. It's with that venomous, well, y'all know what I'm going to say. It is with that person. And they were creating relationships in which this oneness included all of this other stuff that shouldn't be there. Well, now, why are you talking about this? Why are you? Because just as responsibility number one was tied to us to look into the Word and realize what we need to do, just like responsibility two was to understand and to seek God today for His guidance as well, Spirit and truth. Responsibility three, we have so many people growing up in this world who have no idea who they are, what they are, if they're coming, if they are going, and they are wanting to have relationships. Whose responsibility is it to teach them the way they need to go? Who? Us. It's our responsibility. We have to inform them the way that they need to go in this most important and sacred relationship that they will ever have. If we don't do it, I promise you, the world will do it. And when they do, just like in that day in Ezra, when they included all these other things, today they will do the exact same thing. That includes so many things that when you walk in to the house of your son or your daughter or that adopted son or daughter, that godchild, you'll think, where did you come from? Oh, you just don't understand. You just, that ideology and all that stuff that was for a bunch of bigots and for a bunch of people who just didn't like anybody else. No! That was for people who realized that God produced the best way for us to live. It doesn't make me any better than you. If we're both following God, how am I better than you? People think that Christians have this mindset of, I'm just better than you. No! God is better than me. That's the point. God's better than me. Jesus was better than me. And God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit orchestrated a perfect way to live. A way that is relevant just as much tomorrow, today, as it was yesterday. We must realize that. So what did Ezra do? Well, obviously, he started protesting, started slapping people around, laying down the rock's justice, the people's champ. Whop, whop! Bunch of heathens. Started painting white crosses in the women's restroom. I'm gonna keep using it until it's no longer there. But I actually talked to my wife this afternoon about painting it ourselves. So it might not be there anymore, but I'm still gonna think about it on that wall. No! He didn't do any of that. He did exactly what I talked about up there. he dropped to his knees and said, God, you've got to grant the victory here because we can't do this. We have allowed ourselves to go all over the place and find all kinds of things that we think are the answers. We have found ways for us to do things that are contrary to your law. You have to come in. I surrender to the wisdom of God. I surrender to the power of God and his ability to move in these people. That's what Ezra did. The Bible says he went, he cried, he prayed, and his crying prayer was heard by the people, and they realized what they had done. God cares about you. His personal care and love for you cannot be overstated. It can't. So if you care about those people you claim to love, then you too need to let them know that God is relevant yesterday, today, forever, that we should seek his guidance today and tomorrow, and that he does provide the best way for unity. He does provide the best way for acceptance, for inclusion. God does provide the best way to become one people. God does provide that way. When we start doing that in our lives, when we make it a priority, that's when we will be blessed as they were when the temple was finished. We will be rejoicing in God's house. We will be rejoicing knowing that what he's called us to do, we have finished. What we have sought to work through, God has granted us the wisdom to be victorious in. We will know in that moment who we are as a people. We are a peculiar, marvelous treasure to God. We need to let them know they are just as priceless